We're here in Malta for AIBC Europe, and with me is Dr. Jane Thomason. She's the chief editor for Web3 and Metaverse at Frontiers in blockchain and also an AIBC ambassador. Jane, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here in Malta with you.
Yes. Now, Dr. Jane, she's doing panels, right? And I want to ask you, of course, your experience so far here at AIBC Europe.
I love the experience at AIBC Europe. I think that bringing together the gaming along with the AI and the metaverse and the Web3 allows people to experience the whole continuum of how these technologies are converging to create better experiences, bigger fan communities, more opportunities for industry, and it's all here.
All right. Now, Jane, I want to ask you, what are the biggest developments that you've seen this year in terms of emerging technology, maybe, AI, blockchain, metaverse? What can you say?
Well, I think we have to stop talking about them together. We have the triumvirate of technologies as I see them, the AI and the blockchain and the immersive realities, because AI provides the data analytics, it drives the kind of precision insights about consumers. Blockchain provides the trust layer, the secure data exchange, and the ability to be able to exchange value. And then increasingly people are having these immersive experiences, both in games, in healthcare, in education, in fashion, that allow them to experience things as if they were there. And it's moving very, very quickly.
All right. I really like that point because I think at some point, maybe, 2 years, 3 years ago, blockchain industry were like, oh, AI is a threat or AI is, taking our investors out of the industry. But then as you said, it's not really AI versus blockchain or versus the immersive technology. It's really the three coming together, right?
I think that that's the value of it, and we're seeing it in almost every industry. So I think we have to stop talking about technology verticals and talk about the industries and how they're being used to be able to change the way industries work, how they engage with their customers, how they get insights about their customers, how they exchange value, how they store data.
All right. I want to ask about, ethical consideration. What can you say about that? How can companies or maybe governments, regulators can, discuss ethical consideration in terms of using these technology?
There's so much that we have to discuss because one of the issues about digital ethics is that it's not just impacting on one or two individuals. A single algorithm, if it's working on biased information, can affect millions of people in one decision. And so we have to understand the scale at which some ethical considerations can cause damage. And some of the issues that we have that we don't yet know how to handle. So, for example, is data. Who has your data? What's happening to your data? Data privacy, data consent. And then you have issues, say, in the immersive environments. And if you're thinking about children, this is a really important issue. If children are in an immersive environment, how do they know who they're talking to? How do we protect them? If a crime is committed in a virtual environment, is there the same penalty in law if that same crime is committed in an analog environment? And we're only just beginning to understand the impact and the consequences of some of these things. So the discussion about ethics is not yet concluded, because we're just working out what some of the issues are. But it's an incredibly important discussion, both for the people who are developing the technology, the people who are making policies, the parents and the communities that are using the technologies. We have to understand what some of the consequences of not thinking about the ethics of technology are going to be.
You know what? This reminded me, you had a workshop in mental health in iGaming. Now, I want to put that in the context of mental health, amidst AI, blockchain, metaverse. Why do we need to talk about that in this,
Well, I want to flip the table because what we usually talk about is mental health as a consequence and a problem of gaming or participating in virtual worlds. And this is true, but you'd be surprised at how small a percentage of gamers actually are impacted by mental health problems. There's 3 billion gamers worldwide. That's a lot of people. But what I'm interested in is the research is coming out and it's teaching us that games can have positive and beneficial effects, both in terms of mood relaxation, anxiety reduction, but also in developing skills like cognitive skills, concentration, focus, and all sorts of other things. So what I want to shine the light on is what are the positive benefits of some of these games, but how can we then deliberately build into the games opportunities for people to learn and improve some of their cognitive, physical, and other skills.
Right. I think we can go on and on about, talking about ethics and discussing about mental health in this space. But when I move forward and ask you about regulatory development, we are here in Europe where there's MiCA, of course, and also the AI Act. Globally, what can you say are the major developments for, tech industry in terms of regulatory developments?
Well, I want to say two things. One is that you can't regulate the technology, you're going to regulate by sector. So if the technology is performing an activity in the financial sector, it's going to be regulated through the financial sector. If it's the health sector, similarly. So it's pretty much impossible to blanket regulate technology. But what we have seen in other areas is, interestingly, the British Commonwealth have developed a model law for digital assets, which is now being made available as a template for the 54 Commonwealth countries. We expect to see some significant change with the Trump administration coming in with his more relaxed viewpoint for blockchain. So the regulations are continuously trying to catch up, but it's going to be sector by sector that we see that happening.
All right. Now, in your opinion, what are the biggest markets to look at in the coming year, 2025?
Well, I think it's really interesting because the markets are quite different. So the biggest number of gamers are in Asia, and I think China is the biggest by revenue. But you have, say, North America and Europe, where players are spending much more per head. And then you've got Saudi Arabia, for example, really making a play for the game sector and investing hundreds of millions of dollars in developing Saudi as a centre for esports and gaming. So I think what we're seeing is the emerging markets are moving the fastest: India, Philippines, Japan, Korea, China. But the big money is in some of the Western markets and the Middle Eastern markets. So it depends if you're after numbers or if you're after money.
All right. Now, Dr. Jane, final thoughts, your outlook for the coming years for, AI, the AI, blockchain, and the emerging technology.
Well, my final thought is that most people don't know what's going on. So my background's in the health sector. So I follow a lot about how these technologies are being used in the health sector, the use of digital twins for surgeons to prepare for operations, for example. And there's a tremendous amount going on, as I said, health, education, automotive industry, travel and tourism, and in entertainment and in gaming. So what I think I'd love to see is for more insights sector by sector about the incredible work that's going on with technology that we don't hear about enough.
Yeah, I've mentioned this to you off camera. I've covered Nepal and they use blockchain for blood bank donation. I also spoke to a doctor based in Singapore and he uses AI for his research for cancer. So many things, right? And so many use cases that needs to be highlighted as well. Dr. Jane Thomason, thank you so much for your insights and your foretime.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.